Master Chief Maurice Poulin, so we're excited about that. And just a reminder that the money we raise goes to our welfare fund, where even in the last year, we were able to help an elderly veteran replace an oil tank, additional scholarships above and beyond our normal scholarship. So it's really important work that we do. And I would encourage people to go online to register to run, donate, or volunteer. But with that, we've had a great summer. We're coming to the end of our patriotic year, if you will. Veterans Day will be in November, but we're looking forward to having a party on the 26th and hope we have your support.
Yeah, so I saw the application, Bob. What is the special celebration?
Well, we're celebrating a number of members and their work, and we have families coming, so it's really an expanded group. I didn't have a name for it, but it is going to be a larger than normal crowd, so we wanted to make sure we were operating as we should.
Any further discussion, Mark? Anything?
No, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, discussion's been made. Roll call vote.
Josh Hantrum, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Gene Canty, aye. Gene Canty just fell over.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Hold on a second. Mark, you want to read that next motion while I fix something here?
No, I think, Josh, you're going to have to do that. I don't have any material with me.
Yeah, no problem. I was afraid I'd get this one. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Henry Wojwadczyk as Nahant Police Reserve Officer. My apologies for the last name pronunciation.
Sorry, if I could just jump in. It's pronounced Wojwadczyk.
Okay. Wojwadczyk. Thanks, Chief.
Sure.
Yeah, both these candidates have a, did we second that?
I don't think so.
Seconded.
Okay.
Discussion. I was just going to say both of these candidates, the one for the assistant keeper of the jail and
Wojwadczyk.
Have great resumes, great backgrounds.
They certainly do. Henry Wojwadczyk just retired recently from Lynn Police after 25 plus years. He attained the rank of lieutenant. He also worked at the jail. He's a military veteran, fairly young. He just had enough, so he just kind of wants to stay a little bit active, but wants to be able to enjoy himself as well. So we'll have him for a bit. And the assistant keeper of the lockup, was a reserve with us for quite a bit. He retired as a Marblehead sergeant, came over to us as a retiree, and reached the age of 65. So he has to retire the end of July. So he wants to remain part of the police department because he trains extensively nationwide to other police departments.
Well, that's a great benefit to us to have all that background. And
Absolutely.
to be able to use it. Yeah, that's awesome. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Roll call vote.
Josh Hantrum, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Gene Canty, aye. Want to get that next one too?
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you. I move the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Don Decker as assistant keeper of the lockup with the Nahant Police Department.
Seconded.
Okay. Chief.
Discussion.
Well, the chief just gave us some background on Officer Decker as well. So I'm glad it sounds
That covers that.
willing to stay on. We need to help out the town. Anything else, Chief?
No, he's an asset. He teaches impaired driving, which is ever changing with the legalization of marijuana. So he's on top of that. He's the head drug recognition expert for the state of Massachusetts. Again, he travels nationwide teaching that as well. So he's a huge benefit to have on board with us.
Incredible. Further discussion. Having none, roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Bob Pellin and I.
Gene Canty, aye. All right, we got you on there, Tony?
I'm here.
I can start with the motion on this here. Is on the American Rescue Plan Act premium pay approval, if you'd like.
Please.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve premium pay from the American Rescue Plan Act funds for the town of Nahant employees for work performed during the state of emergency.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and other members of the board for giving me this opportunity to present this to you for approval. This has been something that we've been working on for quite some time throughout the last, well, since ARPA funds and clear guidance for what they can be used for was released, and premium pay during the public health emergency was something that was allowed use of these funds. And many communities have, we've communicated with a lot of communities, a lot of municipalities and town administrators and city council members have been discussing this amongst each other, working with each other to understand what other towns are doing and how they're kind of setting this up. But this is essentially, this is pay for the extreme work environment that we went through during the public health emergency, which spanned from March of 2020 to June of 2021. That is the dedicated dates by the governor of that public health emergency that we went through. Some communities have gone through this and issued standard flat rate premium pay amounts based on ranks or positions. We evaluated that, took a look at it. It's a simpler way to go, but in our opinion, and when I say our, Allison Nieto has helped me work through this, as well as colleagues in other municipalities. But the way I looked at it was that a more equitable way to approach this would be a percentage base of folks' base salary, a percentage of folks' base salaries. And that would be a way to provide an equitable share of the ARPA funds to our staff in town who worked tirelessly and went above and beyond to help our community get through that pandemic. We also looked at the other communities that are doing ARPA premium pay through their ARPA funds and looked at what their total percentage was of their ARPA that was being used for this effort, and tried to stay relatively close to that as well. I will say that, the town of Nahant only received $1.1 million, where many other communities larger than us, because it was based on the population of those communities, received much, much more in ARPA. So those other communities had the ability to, do a little bit more with their premium pay as compared to us. But the proposal that I'm putting in front of you tonight is one that I find to be as equitable as possible across the board, and as close to comparison to other municipalities, within the town's means. So the way that we looked at this is for all full-time employees and part-time employees that earned a wage during that pandemic. Their total starts with $100, and then it goes up for full-time employees. On top of that, it's 1.5% of their base pay, prorated for the days that they were a full-time employee during that pandemic timeframe. And for part-time employees, it's 100 and then goes up for hours actually worked during that time frame. 1.5% of their earnings for hours actually worked during that time frame. So folks who may no longer be with the town because they've retired or moved on to another job or another town, they would still receive this pay because they were here during that time. I feel very strongly about this. Our community, for the short staff that we have, performed at the top level compared to what we saw in many other communities. Aside from the first, month or two of the pandemic when everything shut down, our school system never stopped. We were one of the few communities that had in-person learning throughout that pandemic phase, through that time frame. Our Council on Aging department never stopped. Many other COAs basically put services on hold, and our Council on Aging continued to provide wellness checks and delivery of meals throughout the pandemic. They adjusted the way that they ran their program to fit the public health guidelines that were presented. Obviously, our police, our fire department, our public safety personnel were some of the most prepared personnel and departments in the state. Knowing that this was coming, our folks didn't hesitate. Jumped at the beginning of the line to get proper PPE and guidelines and policy put in place to make sure that the residents of Nahant were safe, and so weren't their colleagues that they were working alongside with. Our town hall as well, we were close to the public in the very early phases, and then we were almost a month later, we were back in the building 5 days a week. We were open to the public 3 of those days for a short period, and then back open 5 days a week, far before many other communities were doing that. So when you're in municipal government, very rarely do you have the opportunity to reward your employees financially for the good work that they have done, and especially reward them with funds that don't negatively impact your general fund. Having the opportunity to take some of these ARPA funds and put it towards this purpose is an opportunity that doesn't come along often, and where our staff works so hard and performed at such a high level. I couldn't be more supportive of this and proud to present it to you tonight. I myself will not be taking this pay. I don't want this to be presented as something to benefit myself. This is purely an effort to reward the employees and the people who work for the town for the great work that they've done. And by summary, after going through the formula and looking up all the payroll records and figuring out what each employee would receive, this is going to cost the town $97,860 from our ARPA funds, which is 9.3%. So I'll stop there and ask if you have any comments or questions or.
Yeah, Tony, I'm just looking at the last page, that summary page. And it refers to total expenditures as of the 15th of this month of 380,000. And then a balance of, and then an overall balance. Could you just explain those three cost items?
That's the previous expenditures from ARPA that have already been approved. So that's money that we spent out of the ARPA account. A lot of that was for COVID tests, COVID clinics, PPE, a number of things that surrounded, specifically to the pandemic, being, converting services to allow for remote accessibility, improving the website so that folks can access town services remotely as well. That's a lot of what those expenditures were up until this point, as well as public events post public health emergency. We've spent some funds on, getting the community back together, such as like the July 9th event.
So the total expenditure of 360, that is already been approved and spent.
Yes,
The balance, the 348, is for what period?
I'm not looking at the same thing that you're looking at
Okay.
because I gave you my copy.
Is it the last page, Gene, that you're looking at?
No,
PDF. I'm looking at the PDF.
I probably do have a, in fact, I noticed there's a mix here of payroll, which we're approving, and general expenses, which are we also approving that? Are we approving the total?
Nope, tonight you're just approving that. What you're looking at, Gene, is what's already been approved to date.
Okay,
So you don't need to approve that again.
Right.
The
so we're going
total,
to,
okay, so the total expenditures as of 8/15, August 15th, we've spent to date $360,615.95. All of that has already been approved, which
Okay.
means as of 8/15, with the funding that we've already received, but haven't received everything yet, there's a balance in our account of $348,264.22. So, but our total ARPA award is 1.1 million. We haven't received the full 1.1 yet.
so what is that overall balance number of 689?
That's the overall balance of what we have left to spend out of ARPA,
Okay,
including the amount that we haven't received from the federal government yet.
all right, I got it.
So
Thanks.
1.1 million minus the 360 that we've already spent, we have 689 left. And what is in front of you tonight is the approval to spend $97,860 on this effort.
Okay. Discussion further?
Well, I'll just say that, like you two, I assume, I went through the spreadsheet with Tony last week. Very meticulous spreadsheet. Every single person that worked for the town of Nahant at all, between March 2020 and June 2021 is included, and everybody gets the exact same percent of their pay. So from my perspective, as fair as possible, completely fair, I think. And just to echo points that Tony made, I think Nahant did an exceptional job of keeping services running during that difficult time, especially when compared to other communities. School, no hybrid learning was a challenge. I know kids wearing masks and having to social distance, but everybody kept doing their job, and I definitely support rewarding them in this fair way, and equally certain that the employees will appreciate the offer.
Mark,
No, like Josh, I had the opportunity to sit with Tony and went through his analysis, and I think he did a great job. I want to thank him for putting that effort in, and Allison too. I know she spent a lot of time doing it. So
agreed.
I think it's a
Okay, discussion complete. Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim,
rock color line.
Gene Canty, aye.
Thank you very much for your support on that. Very much appreciated.
Okay, motion to and move that the Board of Selectmen vote to authorize the town administrator to execute the Wright Pierce Engineering contract for the Ward Road Sewer Pump Station upgrade.
seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
We should have a
I'm sorry, discussion.
kind of a big number.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is the engineering portion of the Ward Road pump station upgrade. That funding was approved, I guess, at a meeting last spring. And this is releasing the contract that is a portion of that project. That's the intro for you to jump in if you'd like, Tony.
Yeah. We even further back, Tom Simbrow's on the call, by the way, from Wright Pierce. Even further back, before we really went down this road of major capital investment in our sewer system, we procured through a qualifications bid process engineering services to help us get through this. And we received a number of proposals from engineering firms, and Wright Pierce back then and to the present day, really shined brightly and has proven us correct on our selection, because they've been phenomenal to work with. And they engineered our Linway sewer project, which is underway and almost done. And even prior to that, their first project for the town was to do a peer review and an alternatives evaluation on what to do with our Linway sewer project. And they did an excellent job looking at what the current situation was, evaluating multiple different alternatives, and ultimately working with us to decide what the best option was. And now after that, they went through the design, permit, and bidding phase for the Linway job, and currently are going through the construction phase of that. And it's proven to be that we selected the right capital project between dig and replace or a different type of pipe sleeving material to direct drilling, it's proven that, you know, the process that we decided upon has been the best option, and any other option would have been a very troubling project. And they've been managing Gioso, our contractor, who was hired through a construction bid process, extremely well. I meet with Wright Pierce every 2 weeks with Gioso, with DCR, with DEP, and you know, it's just been a phenomenal experience and a great project, and they do a phenomenal job. This next part of their process with the town, as well as doing other survey work related to the causeway and the Willow Road main, was to do a pump station asset evaluation report, which they've already completed. So they went through every nook and cranny of our Ward Road pump station and came up with an assessment with a list of recommended improvements with estimated costs, and actually helped us use that information to apply and eventually be awarded and approved funding through the state revolving fund, which is where we went to town meeting for the local approval, and we received that. So they've now provided us, and what's in front of you today is a scope for the engineering services to do the work at the Lowlands pump station, which is a, you know, Tom can get into the high level or deep dive description of what the scope of the project is. Essentially, it's the replacement and upgrade of every single component within that building that is, you know, was designed for 25 years and is on its 45th to 50th year. So we've already obviously made the claim and the case and received the support of the town as to why we needed to do the project. Now, this is the scope that's been presented to us from Wright Pierce to be the engineers on the project. With their vast knowledge of repairing and replacing pump stations in other communities, plus doing the assessment of ours, plus being so familiar with our sewer system now because of all the work they've done with the Linway job and Willow Road, I have the utmost confidence in them to do this job on, you know, on behalf of our town and make sure that we're getting the best deal possible.
Tony,
yeah.
could we, when we do this, instead of a deep dive, could we just, for those listening and for the general public, brief description of the project and what the end result is expected to be,
Sure,
as we discussed today?
sure. So this project is to replace and upgrade almost every component in the Ward Road pump station. The Ward Road pump station is the town's main station where all wastewater gets sent to the Ward Road pump station. It's then pumped from there through our force main, down the causeway, down the Linway to the Lynn water treatment plant. Our biggest priority in our entire sewer system, from, you know, the toilet in your house all the way to the Linway treatment plant, the biggest priority for the town was the section of the force main from the rotary to the treatment plant, which that project is underway and almost done. The second biggest priority is the pump station at the Ward Road, which is the heart of the system that pumps everything out of town. That building, the structure, the building itself is in pretty decent shape, but every component within it, whether you're talking about lighting, HVAC, electrical, insulation, the pipes, the pumps, the actual elements of the pump station itself, the generator, everything in there has reached far beyond its end of life and needs to be replaced and upgraded. If that pump station, if any element of that pump station were to fail, we would have a huge problem on our hands with a massive cost of repair that would only be a Band-Aid, similar to the things that we went through on the Linway that we're trying to avoid by getting ahead of it now. So what you are voting on tonight is just the engineering costs associated with this project. The next step, if approved, is the design, permitting, and bidding phase, which Wright Pierce will handle. And then once we put the project out to bid and we get construction proposals, a recommendation will be to award the construction of the project, which will be the big cost. Will come back to you for approval at that point. Tom, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, that's a good summary. So, you know, we did the evaluation, and when we did that, you know, Tony, you were there when we had our architects and our instrumentation engineers, our electrical, and you know, credit to Zach for keeping that station, you know, chugging away 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's unbelievable job, but it really is that the equipment is, you know, some of the most dire needed work necessary. So the station really does, like Tony said, the building itself is pretty good. And can last another 30-40 years. That's no problem. You know, every component inside really has to be replaced. The design, when we do this design, there's going to be, you know, multiple sheets. There'll be civil sheets, architectural sheets, process sheets, instrumentation, electrical. This is because it's a rehab of a wastewater pumping station, and it's going to be SRF funded. It falls under DCAM, the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance. So you have to, the plans have to be prepared to an even finer tune because it's going to be filed sub-bid, which means that before the general contractors bid, electrical, painting, HVAC, they'll be bidding like a week to 2 weeks beforehand, and then the general will come in. So the plans have to be really tight. The specs have to be tight. The other thing that we're looking at, you know, there's a underground storage tank there that used to be used for fuel. We're going to be doing work in the wetlands buffer. Anything on the outside will be within the wetlands buffer. The station was built around 1980, so included in our design fee is hazardous material survey, where we'd get actually bring in a specialist for that. Most of the stuff we do all in-house, but that environmental type of work, they would be checking for caulking, tiles, if there's any asbestos cement, lead paint, PCBs, or anything like that. We would need to know that before it goes out to bid. The other thing we're going to take a look at is ways to maybe get some incentive programs with National Grid by having like VFD drives on the pumps and so forth. There's money, there's benefits available there. And then the other, lastly, to not go too deep, but Tony and Zach definitely want to reevaluate the flood protection in that for that pumping station. So there's nice, simple ways that we can just harden the station, which would be like flood doors, flood panels, and so forth. We're going to take a look at that. We have the recent survey. We've got the new FEMA flood elevations. We probably want to put 3 feet on top of that and just have it also included as part of the design. So to harden that area, it's a, flood prone area. So.
Thank you.
Tom, this is my, Tom, I got a question in Tony. Are we looking at a bypass, putting a bypass in there, for the future if needed?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've already, based upon the condition, Mark, we've actually asked Gioso, the contractor, to give us a price to put in a bypass actually now. Maybe under the Linway contract, it would mean cutting in like a T, couple of valves, and just having it off in the grass, so that if something should happen in the interim, we could bring in like a Godwin bypass pump, draw from the wet well or the manhole outside and tap into the force main. And that way, if an emergency repair needed to be done before this construction was done, it would be a quick turnaround. So yeah, yep, that would definitely be part of it.
It would also allow us to bypass the station during this project.
Yep.
So instead of using trucks to pump, which are extremely expensive to truck the material over to the treatment plant, we'll set up a bypass around the plant that won't interfere with access to the plant in order to get this job done.
Yep. And the way we would do it for a project like this, because this would be a 9 to 12 month project to just gut the station and rebuild it. We wouldn't use diesel. We would actually get an electrical drop, for an electrical bypass pump, so that it's kind of a little mini pumping station, to allow us to do the work.
But when you completed, can we use the bypass with diesel pumps?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. I mean, for those who are listening, in the event that the town had a complete blackout for an extended period of time, currently that would affect the lowlands. We couldn't pump. Things get backed up. All of the other 12 pump stations in town get backed up. So this would allow us to bring in some diesel generator and pumps to continue pumping in the event of a blackout.
Thanks, Mark.
And also the current station is outfitted with an oil generator. That's that underground storage tank that Tom was talking about, which is non-functioning. So we have it backed up with a diesel generator, I think. Currently, the new station, I think we'll have a gas. Tom, do you know? I think we probably have like a gas generator for automatic backup as well.
We're going to have to see if we'll definitely take a look at that. If not, the way we would do it, instead of having that a buried underground storage tank with diesel, we would have the generator inside where it is now, replace it, but have 48 hours of fuel in the skid, like a fuel tank belly underneath. Double wall containment, all of that. So we'll take a look at the gas, but if not, we'll get rid of the UST and just have a double wall tank inside.
There may not be gas down there, actually, now that I think about it. So that's probably going to be the option.
Yep. Yeah, it's standard. Yep.
Tony, the $5 million for this, is that part of the 18 million approved for the sewage contract?
Yes.
Thanks.
That's part of the borrowing through the state revolving fund.
Thanks. Any further discussion?
Well, I guess we haven't talked about what, the dollar number that we're actually voting on tonight, which is the engineering portion of that $5+ million that's already been approved at town meeting. But just so people know that the engineering project is totals up to about $894,000. if I got my numbers correct. So big project. So, Tom, we appreciate you being here tonight, and, you know, the town of Nahant's putting a lot of faith in you and your firm. So please do a good job, as, I'm sure you will, but, you know, there's a lot riding on this for the town of Nahant, so, put your best foot forward.
All right, well, we appreciate that. And, you know, this type of work is our bread and butter. This is what we do: water and wastewater treatment plants and pumping stations and pipeline infrastructure. That's all we do. So, and, you know, if you gave our architect, if you wanted him to build an addition to your house, it would look like a brick pumping station, because that's so this is it. And, you know, like the design, permit, and bidding phase, you know, we have that as a lump sum because we can control that. The construction phase is time and materials, and on, you know, we've been great on the budgeting for the Gioso job. And so I think, you know, hopefully this can come in even a little bit more efficiently, and we'll go from there.
Tom, this is a time and materials not to exceed, right?
Correct. Yep.
Is that a standard municipal contract form that you have?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yep,
most
it's
of
the
your
one-
contracts, time and materials not to exceed?
Yeah, it's this one, Mark, it's in two phases. We have the design, permit, and bidding phase as a lump sum. You know, like I said, we can control that. We know how many sheets we're going to have, and we know how long it's going to take us to bid. So that we know. The construction phase, that's in time and materials. If it goes time and materials not to exceed, because if the contractor gets this done earlier, then, you know, it's less engineering phase, obviously.
Right. I know that procurement laws, I believe it allows for bonuses for time and materials not to exceed. Can you correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, on that?
Yeah.
If it comes in at a certain level, then Wright Pierce is eligible for a bonus. If it's not, then it's not. But are you familiar with those contracts?
I've heard of it, and, you know, I've been doing it for, you know, 35 years. I've never really seen it. I've seen it where, like, on some much bigger projects, you know, like 50 million plus, where if you can design it and the construction comes in, the engineer can get like a bonus. You know, this, I don't know if it really, for this size project, I think the way that we have it now would be okay with us for sure. So.
Okay, makes sense.
Tom, do you think the project manager, is that the expectation, or is that to be determined?
I'd be the project manager again. Yep. Nope. And a lot of the people that you already know, Andrew Smith and Stephanie Salerno, you know, this is like near and dear to them. They definitely want to be part of the pumping station. They'd be doing a lot of the process work. You know, they've already done the hydraulic calcs on the force main, so they've already got the pipe, you know, the pumps sized and so forth. The new guys would be the architects, electrical engineers, and instrumentation and architect. So, and they were the ones who were there at the evaluation that we did back in January. So, you know, they want to stay part of the team as well. So,
with you kind of touch on this a little bit. With this opportunity comes new technology, new energy efficiency, in some ways, some cost saving measures for the town, right?
yeah, yep.
Like the variable frequency on the pumps is a energy saver for those that don't. That was the VFD you mentioned. So.
Yeah, I think they have, the current pumps have a variable speed, the motors are. But Tom, to follow up on what Tony's saying, will this have built-in telemetry so that it can be monitored offline?
Yep, full instrumentation. It can be, we can send it back to Zach's office, we can send it to Tony's, and then obviously to the Lynn wastewater treatment plant.
And, okay, I'm not gonna get into the details, but, okay, we can talk later offline about some of the details. Sounds
Yeah, as
good.
we're developing the plans, you know, the 30%, the 60%, 90%, and then 100. Yeah, we can have meetings. We can go through them. We'll send you the plans and you can, you know, give us your thoughts.
Okay,
Okay, motion made, seconded, discussed, roll call vote.
Josh Hanford, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Gene Canty, aye. Ongoing business. Do we have any ongoing business?
I think I'm going to leave right now, but I just wanted to say one thing. Thank you very much. And as far as the Linway goes, there's 2 more manholes left to do. One of them's coming on Monday. One of them's coming on Wednesday. When those are all done next week, we're going to start pressure testing the line, and it should be commissioned within the next week or 2. Then they're going to start taking the bypass down. So we can see the finish line.
Yeah, that's good news.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to leave. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Tom.
So no ongoing business. I had one thing I wanted to ask about. Dan, you'd be the guy to ask on this. It seems like everybody is all of a sudden talking about the air traffic.
Okay,
What
that
is-
is, yep. That's been pretty quiet recently. I don't think there's been any CAC meetings, not that I've heard of anyway. I don't think there's any movement been taken at the local level regarding that new arrival. The extra air traffic, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. Other than it's just getting busier and busier as we get away from COVID and the traveling restrictions.
It almost seems like it's getting busier and busier over Nahant. I mean, Facebook is flooded with it. And although I don't get into Facebook much, people that do say that everybody is chatting. And I don't know that there's anything we can do, but I think we have to acknowledge that we do realize that it's gotten worse.
Yeah, there's been no chatter on that level that I've heard. And we usually get the emails by Bob and I.
On our website, for anyone listening that has been part of the conversation recently, the phone number and email to the Mass CAC and Massport to make those complaints are on our website. I think if you go under community and go under, I think if you go to community and then, you know what, let me look it up real quick. Maybe you can show it on my screen. Bear with me 1 second, please.
While Tony looks that up, it is important if there's a unusually loud plane to register that complaint. Massport keeps a track of complaints, and so it's a way for people to be heard and counted, literally.
You know, everything was kind of, I don't know if I think the word they use is vector, I probably have that wrong, but over Nahant, Little Nahant. And now it seems almost as though it's sharing it with the rest of the town, particularly in the center of town. Any reason for that, Dan? Is that our nav program is not in place, right?
No, it's not. If the bigger planes should not be flying over Nahant. When I say the big planes, it's what they call the heavies, you know, the 787s and the 777s and the Airbuses and whatnot. They should not be flying over Nahant unless there's some sort of special issue on approach. What you will see flying over Nahant more often than not are the Cessnas, you know, Cape Air, the 302s, and the Embraer 180s and things like that. They're the regional jets and aircraft. But the big ones, I've seen them. I haven't seen them over Nahant, but I've seen them cross in the middle of the causeway frequently.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Okay, and just one other thing, anything new on 9 Little Nahant?
No, nothing new. It's been quiet. I'll reach out to the council of record tomorrow to find out. We were anticipating some more potential buyers, but I haven't heard anything from the AG since last week. So I'll email her tonight.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Preserving East Point. Josh, anything you wish to?
Just before we get to that, I don't know, Tony, if you wanted to share the phone number and link on the screen, or
Yeah.
you're able to find it.
So this is it's titled RNAV study, which is not intuitive. So I'll admit that I think, we can make some improvements on this. You get here by clicking on community and then going to RNAV study. So, coming up with a more intuitive title for this page would be a good first start. But if you get to this page and you scroll down, this is the information here, which is the noise complaint line and the link to submit a complaint online. So we'll clean this up a little bit, make it a little bit more obvious for folks to get to. So that's where it is right now. I think Dan and I saw like Dan, remember I sent you like a tweet that I saw from the Globe or some Boston based.
I do recall something. I don't recall the details of it.
And it said like the top 10 towns by like noise complaint.
Right. Yes. I do recall that.
Nahant was not featured on there.
Yeah, it was like Winthrop, East Boston,
So-
I think Milton.
So, those complaints are recorded and they are ranked. And, if your voice isn't, carrying to the folks that control this, they don't hear about it. And we're not on, for lack of a better term, on their radar. So, definitely make the call and make the complaint when you have one. Going on to Nahant, residents page on Facebook, the Massport doesn't see that. So, really try to push that out to folks. If you see it, if you're on social media and you see it, copy and paste the number and the link on the social media and, get people to click on that and submit complaints through that, either by calling or going through the online form, because that's how things get noticed by Massport.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Josh?
Regarding preserving point, I don't have anything other than, the two column key cases are moving through the courts very slowly. There's some milestones coming up end of October, but right now they're just slowly moving through the court system. There is a Concom meeting going on right now regarding the seawater intake at Northeastern. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Hey, Tony, we talked about it today. Do you want to give a brief description of the dog registry?
I'll do that in my town administrator report.
Okay, great. Which is next?
Yes, are we done with preserving East Point?
We're done.
Okay. So the first thing on the agenda here is an MBTA multifamily zoning update. So we spoke about this quite some time ago. Law statute passed that required Department of Housing and Community Development to develop guidelines related to the statute that required MBTA communities to have a certain amount of as of right multifamily zoning in their in their town. The original draft guidelines that were released were extremely challenging for communities like ours. They did not, really fit well for us. They did, it would have been, significantly more intrusive upon our community compared to others. And like any zoning requirement, it's very much individually municipality based. It's hard to do a one size fits all approach. So we submitted, the Board of Selectmen, myself, with help of Dan Script, submitted a lengthy comment letter that went point by point of the regs that we felt, if impacted the town of Nahant negatively, far overreached the authority provided by the statute, suggested some changes to be included. And just last week, I think, the DHCD released their next version. Should I say final version?
Yeah, it's
Dan?
the final. It's the final. They're in stone now.
Their final version of their guidelines. And they, for communities like ours, I would say, I don't want to call it a victory, or we should take a victory lap. There's still a lot of work for us to do, but the changes that they made seem to, incorporate our concerns, comments, and suggestions significantly. And so, we're happy to report that we are now in a separate category referred to as an adjacent small town. Our percentage of housing units required to be as of right multifamily went from 20% down to 5%. Our number of the number of units in the original documents, in the original guidelines no longer exist. The number of acres for our community, for any community in our category, required under the original guidelines no longer exists as well. So a significant improvement for us, and we still have some work to do, but in the meantime, we've received a planning grant from EEA, which we've hired MAPC to help us with. So in conjunction with the funds we received through CPC for a housing production plan, we've hired MAPC to work on both concurrently. So a lot of positives for communities like ours under the recent the final guidelines that were released last week. A lot of positive change. Still work for us to do, but certainly way less of a burden than the original compared to the original guidance.
Hey,
Dan,
Tony,
you want to add to that?
pardon?
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
No, I was just going to say for you and Dan, just a big thank you for the effort you put into it. This, at least as I see it, this could have gone in a normal circumstance unchallenged with the workload that you have already up there. And to be able to pull this off and have this result is great. Thank you.
Thank you. But it was definitely a team effort and a regional effort. Many other communities of our size, we were on email chains together, bouncing back and forth versions of letters and ideas and concepts to incorporate. I do think our letter stood out a bit because of how much detail we put into it. And, many communities adopted things that we included in ours. But I appreciate that. It was a lot of work, and we definitely are. I think both Dan and I were, I don't know, surprised, I guess, a little bit when we saw the final guidelines. It was wow, they listened to us. So I commend Secretary Keneally and his staff for, going through an honest public process and really listening to what we had to say and incorporating that into their latest draft or final guidelines, I should say. Dan, do you have any other thing to add as far as like changes that were incorporated?
Just three quick things, really quick things. One, this will eventually get to town meeting, given that it's a zoning issue after we get to planning board hearing and whatnot. So town meeting will be involved. Number two, we already have a bunch, over 200 actually multifamily prior non-conforming use dwellings. So it's not like we don't have any. We have no zones, but we have certainly over 200 actual units that are non-conforming. And the last thing was, oh shucks, I forgot what the last thing was. Oh, we can put the location is now not an issue. Previously, they were trying to constrain where we could put these zones or this zone. We can put it anywhere. There's no particular location, anywhere that's reasonable in town.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Dan. I'm about a day behind on my news, but I did notice in the Globe, I think it was a couple days ago, an article on accessory dwelling units, and I know Tony will be looking at that when we begin our housing production plan. So I was encouraged by that article. Also, I think it's a great opportunity for the town.
Yeah, it's a good article. Very insightful.
I'll just add on the MBTA topic. I'll disagree with Tony a little bit on this. It's a huge victory for Nahant. The original guidelines were completely untenable for Nahant, and I'm very grateful that we took a proactive approach on this. It's because, as Gene said, if we hadn't, we would have been steamrolled. And I appreciate the people at the state level listening to this carefully crafted letter, because it's, as Tony said, there's still some challenges, but they're manageable challenges, not completely unrealistic challenges. So thanks again for putting that letter out there, and to the state level folks for actually listening and acting on it.
So true. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. So we're other things I have on my town administrator report. As you mentioned, the Nahant Police Department announced the creation of a dog database. The police department, many times when a dog is lost, they get brought up to the police station, and the police department does a great job of, taking care of those pets and posting pictures online and using social media effectively to alert owners that their pets are missing. Usually, the first check that they do is look at the license registration database that's ran through the town clerk at the town hall, which they have a copy of. Sometimes dogs are unregistered, and sometimes they don't have a collar on them, so there's no tag for them to look at. So this database gives them an alternative way of using a photo of a dog to try to identify that dog, who it belongs to, and try to get it home safely. So great job by the police department coming up with that idea. It sounds like they have, sounds like they've already received a couple dozen submissions. And if you are interested in submitting a photo of your dog, please send it to npdrecords@nahantpolice.org and include the dog name, the owner name, the home address, and the phone number. We're going through, in the town hall, we're going through a transition process. We've
Tony,
Yes.
can I interrupt for 1 minute? I think we should parrot what the item said and the chief said. And that is that the chief wanted to credit Lieutenant Schultz for the idea and Mariana Hire for her efforts to create the database and get the system up and running. So congrats many thanks to them for what they accomplished. That's great.
Yes, thank you. At the town hall, we're going through a transition. Next week is Brendan Corritt, our town treasurer collector's last week. Brendan has been offered and opted to take a job with our neighbor town of Winthrop. Excellent opportunity for him. I thank him tremendously for the work that he's done. He was, one of the first hires, my first department head hire when I came in. So he's been with me since 2018, has been a integral part of our department head staff and, town hall staff. He's been tremendous to work with, has grown so much. And, we're wishing him very, very much well wishes and commend him for all the work he's done and the opportunity that he's taking advantage of. With that, we've posted the position, we've received applications. We'll be going through an interview process. We're also, we have reached out and are continuing to communicate with consultants that provide interim services, as well as retired, contractors that provide interim services to try to keep the treasure collector department on schedule, especially this time of year, closing out the last year, getting ready to set the tax rate and get our real estate bills out. We have a lot going on, so it's been busy. It will continue to be for anyone that is listening, and we will do a public post that may have any arrears in water, sewer, trash, or unpaid bills. You can go on to City Hall Systems. There's a link on the nahant.org website. You can enter in your information and you can see if you have any outstanding bills as of June 30th, 2022. If those are unpaid, when we go to send out real estate bills, those amounts will be leaned onto your real estate. So we will post something on the digital message board and something on our website and something online to make people aware that time is coming and to, double check if they have any outstanding arrears. Pleasant Street Park behind the library this past week received a DPW Parks capital upgrade of a fence along the Pleasant Street side of the park. as well as new swing sets and new wood chips surface for the park. The fence is something that's been requested for quite some time now, and we haven't been able to get to it, but we were able to use our parks appropriation, our capital appropriation, and got a good deal on a fence that was in stock that actually matches the fence on the other border of the park. So very happy to have that installed. Makes the park a lot more safe for kids who are enjoying the space.
Puppy's daycare center will be very thrilled to see that.
Yes, yes. Wait till you see it. When you get back, you'll be very happy. It's on, pictures of it are on the website and on Facebook as well.
It really does look nice.
Yeah,
Also, a couple of town meetings ago, CPC funded project for the east slope at Bailey's Hill, slope restoration, trail upgrades, invasive vegetation removal, was approved and funded. And it's been some time, but that work is underway. So anyone walking the Bailey's Hill Tri-Mountain area will see, some work happening there. Josh, we have ordered a couple signs that, hopefully will be completed in the next couple days that describe the project. I know that was something you had mentioned wanting to get done so that folks walking by would have an understanding of what is happening there. And that it's funded by CPC, the Community Preservation Act. So that is underway.
Great.
Should be, hopefully we get them in soon and we'll get them installed right away. And then lastly, our Coyote postcard should have, if not, it should have hit mailboxes in the last couple days or in the upcoming couple days. So we have a lot of good information on that postcard, and folks should be getting it at their homes right about now.
Tony, several questions on, are we at any point going to return to at least hybrid meetings?
I mean, that's a choice of the three of you. We do have the okay to remain in a full Zoom function like we are now, up until
I think it's
April.
March. I think it's
March?
March. Yeah, somewhere around there.
We don't have the technical capabilities to do hybrid from the main hall in the town hall. So if you wanted to do a hybrid function, you could do that downstairs in the conference rooms. Some committees have begun doing that.
Just a question that gets asked.
Yeah, that it comes down to the preference of the board. You have the option to do it. Those you either go full in person if you want to do hybrid, which means you're in person and people who are not in person can still contribute to the meeting. Like during a citizens forum section, can do so remotely. That is technically only feasible in the downstairs conference rooms. Or you can do it the way we're doing it now, which is
Yeah,
you have remote broadcasting and remote accessibility.
I personally think it's, and my colleagues can give their personal views on it, but I think with what we're looking at down the road in the fall, we're probably better off to wait and have this discussion probably closer to the spring of next year or at least winter before we do any kind of change up.
Yeah, well. Depending on, what the legislature does.
Yeah. Okay, citizens forum. Anybody out there?
If anybody wants to contribute to Citizens Forum, you can raise your hand. You can unmute yourself. Just please announce your name and address before you state your comment, question, or concern. I see Michelle is asked to unmute. Sorry, Michelle. Michelle, unmuted. There you go. Okay.
I got it. Thanks, Tony. Hey, good evening. Is there a status on the Coast Guard housing and the disposition of the property?
Question.
Michelle, can you just, for the record, put your name and
Oh, I'm
address?
sorry, Michelle Capano, 29 Ocean Street.
So I guess the status update is, for the direction of the town meeting, decision, residents in the housing were given a 1-year notice, and an updated notice, as we approach the end of that 1 year, which is September.
First,
Dan, is it September 1 or is it September 30?
September 1st.
September 1st, that they need to vacate the residential properties there by the end of the month. And some, I don't have an exact number as to how many have vacated versus how many have not. But that's the status. That's where we are in this phase. So that's what phase we are in currently.
So what about the effort? I think there were a couple of things. One, there was an easement issue on Castle Road. Has that been resolved with the federal government?
Yes.
And have we gone through and subdivided the lots?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. So
That's okay.
leading up to where we are today is the planning board has approved the subdivision and has submitted it to the selectmen. The selectmen have referred the issue to the Town and Land Study Committee. The Town and Land Study Committee has not taken it up quite yet. Their process is to make a recommendation as to the value of the property and what to help inform the selectmen for the eventual 30B procurement process. Dan, is that an accurate way to describe, like, the planning board has approved the subdivision plan?
No. They endorsed an approval not required because it didn't require subdivision approval under the statutes. So what they signed off on basically was that all of the paper lots as they are at the moment will have adequate frontage, essentially is what they came down to. And so they endorsed the A&R, we filed it with the clerk, Diane, and now it's sitting, as you mentioned, went through the Board of Selectmen, now it's sitting with the Town and Land Study Committee, who will provide a recommendation. I think it's second in line now on their agenda.
So Dan, when you say they're paper lots, it's not recorded at the registry, correct?
No, not yet. It doesn't, it's only on paper. They don't actually become separated until they are sold off. And we're not at that process yet.
Okay. Great. I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
You bet.
Do we have any other interested parties? Anyone out there, Tony?
Not that I see.
Okay. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Move that the Board of Selectmen meeting for August 17th, 2022 is be adjourned.
Seconded. Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.